I'm going to start this video off with this because I actually don't think there could be anything more succinct than what this video is really about, which is two things: Epstein and the largest cover-up in American history. And here's how one person put it: it should piss everyone off that Republicans treat Ghislaine Maxwell with more respect than they do Epstein victims. And then Sammy, who is a friend of the channel, said her victims, which is such a good point, because Ghislaine Maxwell was sent to talk to Congress, and she pled the fifth. Now, she did give a suggestion to Trump, who was listening. And here's what her lawyer said. Ms. Maxwell is prepared to speak fully and honestly if granted clemency by President Trump. Only she can provide the complete account. Some may not like what they hear, but the truth matters. She went on to basically just say what she wants to do, which is, for example, both President Trump and President Clinton are innocent of any wrongdoing. And I guess what they're saying is, do you want me to elaborate on that lie? Because I will, but first you got to pardon my criminal ass. That's what she's doing, okay? Now, we know that Donald Trump was dangling that pardon in front of Ghislaine. He was basically saying, hey, if you don't say anything bad about me, I may pardon you. But first, you got to stay quiet throughout the rest of my term. That's why he sent her to that low security prison, which is basically called summer camp, where she can do things like arts and crafts and roam freely. She is a child predator, okay? Why would anyone do that for a child predator if not to say, hey, I'm going to make good on my promise, and to dangle the pardon? Now, the thing is Donald Trump has to dangle the pardon, because if he were to pardon her beforehand, then she might, she would have all the power. Donald Trump needs to have the power. But what she's doing here is saying to him, hey, I know everything. This can go two ways. You're innocent, and I say how you're innocent, or you don't pardon me, and the next time Congress wants to talk, I tell them exactly what happened. That's what's happening here. And we know Donald Trump is ready, willing, and able to pardon, because here's what he had to say.
Or a commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell.
It's something I haven't thought about. It's really something. It's something I'm allowed to do it, but it's something I have not thought about.
I'm allowed to do it. Also, doesn't he just, this was what, over the summer? I feel like he's aged 10 years since this. All right, here is what Rep. Walkinshaw said about this.
Aided and abetted Epstein's crimes, engaged in those crimes. She was the enforcer who threatened the victims and the survivors of those crimes. And today we looked into the eyes of that monster in the deposition. What we did not get were any substantive answers to the questions that were asked that would advance our investigation.
But we did get news that though they might not have gotten what they wanted from Ghislaine, we do know that members of Congress are meeting with the Department of Justice to see the unredacted Epstein files. We have seen all the ones with the black lines. They get to see the ones with no redactions. Here is what Jamie Raskin said about some of those.
Did you see names of any potential co-conspirators that were redacted?
Well, I saw the names of lots of people who were redacted for mysterious or baffling or inscrutable reasons.
Are any of them well-known individuals?
For example, Mr. Wexner, his name was redacted from a government document. And I couldn't understand the logic of that. He was not a victim, and his name has appeared other places. Now, the Department of Justice has not sent forth its so-called privilege log, so it's not explained yet why there might be certain redactions that have been made. I saw one document which was an email that was sent by Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell, which was the forward of an email that he had received from some of his lawyers, giving an account of a conversation between Epstein lawyers and Trump lawyers and others about what had taken place during that 2009 period. It was during the period of the 2009 investigation. And Epstein's lawyers synopsized and quoted Trump as saying that that Jeffrey Epstein was not a member of his club at Mar-a-Lago, but he was a guest at Mar-a-Lago, and he had never been asked to leave. And that was redacted for some indeterminate, inscrutable reason. I know it seems to be at odds with some things that President Trump has been saying recently about how he had kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club or asked him to leave, and this was at least one report that appears to contradict it.
Well, there you go. Maybe that's one reason. But now we got to ask, like, why is this stuff being redacted? It's not supposed to be redacted. That was not something that was going to hurt the victims. And the law was that the only redactions made were ones for national security reasons and for reasons to protect victims. Doesn't sound like that's what that was. They broke the law. Now, is there going to be any consequences for that? No, I don't think so. I think we're post consequences for now. Perhaps if we win the House, perhaps if we win the presidency. Here's what Ro Khanna had to say.
What do you say to the man formerly known as Prince Andrew and to Peter Mandelson with regard to giving evidence to your committee?
Well, Mandelson may bring down the whole government, from what I hear. He just engaged in terrible behavior. I mean, the allegations are very serious that he was working for Gordon Brown and then feeding information about UK possibly buying euros and having Epstein trade on that. I mean, it is a deeply, deeply troubling. And, Epstein's, I saw this interview with Epstein's former girlfriend talking about how someone is a loser if they weren't mentioned in the Epstein files. It's a window into the elite impunity, this club. And by the way, I think this is the most vulnerable the British monarchy has ever been. I mean, I heard they were asking the Queen questions about the Epstein class. They ought to ask the King and Queen questions.
And I love that, calling it the Epstein class. We're going to start saying that here in the channel. That's exactly what it is. There's an elite group of people who do not face consequences, who have tons of money, tons of influence, and tons of power, and zero consequences. The Epstein class. You know who also used that phrase was John Ossoff, and I love this.
Now, you remember, we were told that MAGA was for working class Americans. You remember that? But this is a government of, by, and for the ultra-rich. It is the wealthiest cabinet ever. This is the Epstein class ruling our country.
By the way, I helped get him elected in 2020. You're welcome. With a group of very smart, talented campaign operatives. But, yeah.
They are the elites they pretend to hate. So prices are up, jobs are going away, Medicaid and school lunches are slashed, nursing homes are getting defunded. If you're Steve Bannon and your pitch was Trump for the forgotten man and woman, how do you sell any of this? Trump was supposed to fight for the working class. Instead, he's literally closing rural clinics and hospitals to cut taxes for George Soros and Elon Musk. He was supposed to end the globalist world police foreign policy. Instead, we're doing war for oil and nation building again and threatening to conquer Greenland.
Populism, economic populism. That's how we win, in my opinion. That's how we win. That's what this is all about, really, now. This is about the fact that there's an elite group of people who have all the power, who can literally threaten the president for a pardon, and we got to pay our taxes? I got to pay a parking ticket? I got to wear my seatbelt? No. I think there should be consequences in this world. I think there should be laws. I think people should follow the laws. I think most people in this country do. I think there's a small select few who don't think they apply to them because they don't. And we got to change that. And that's what this is all about. That's what this next election is about. That's what 2028 is about. You ready? I'm ready.